Hi, welcome to Jet Radio. I'm Ted Shire, your host, and Jet Radio is dedicated to community service as a means of sustainability. And so there's a variety of ways to do that, but it's basically everyone doing their part to better the community. And Jet offers a variety of different services. One is a coaching program for reversal of type 2 diabetes, and that is based on coaching. And coaching is helping people to help themselves. Also have a resource called Everyone Needs Sustainability, and that is about the 4 different types of sustainability and how they interact. And also it explains community service as a means of sustainability. So today our guest is Joe O'Toole. He is a doctor of chiropractic, and he is the founder of the Lifestream Clinic. And is that in Clive?
It's in Grimes, and then we have a clinic in Ankeny, and we're opening up a third partial clinic in Ankeny as well.
Excellent. Yeah, Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself and your work and your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Carroll, Iowa, so a small community outside of Des Moines by about an hour and a half. And then my parents grew up in a family with 9 kids and homeschooled all the way through high school. My mom was a nurse, and that really is kind of what sparked my interest in health. And then my dad was an administrator in a facility for mentally handicapped adults. And so I had a lot of experience working with mental retardation and a lot of mental disabilities and physical handicaps as well, all the way through school. And so that's really what sparked my interest in health, and then my mom's influence particularly. So then that led me through a variety of paths to pursue a view on health that is not necessarily the norm, because I saw currently our system of health and our state of health in America is just horrible. And so I was really looking for something that could provide answers that we're just not necessarily finding to a vast scale. And especially, as you mentioned, your work with type 2 diabetes, a lot of the diseases that we have right now are chronic lifestyle type diseases. So that led me to pursue chiropractic and a degree in that field. So I went to Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport for my doctorate. And then while there, again, just through sports and athletics in my background, really gained a huge interest in movement specifically, and then looking at prevention and using exercise and nutrition and proper relationships to help prevent a lot of the chronic diseases that we have. So that's really a lot of my background. And then currently I am finishing my postdoctorate in lifestyle wellness care.
Yeah. No, thanks for giving us a little update there.
Yeah.
But so with your dad's background, do you apply what you're learning about the healing power of relationships to that aspect of things, to mental health?
A little bit, yeah, and that's an area that I'm starting to get into a little bit more. Relationships are huge. The human being is designed as a communal species. I mean, we are a being that needs relationship with other people, and so that's a huge aspect. And if you lack that, then that plays a huge role in mental health.
Sure. Do you still do some volunteering and things like that in terms of for mental drives and things like that?
Personally, myself, at this point, no. I'm a little tapped out with a lot of other stuff that's going on. One of the doctors in our clinic is working part-time with mentally handicapped adults right now. She's loving working with them, and so she's working with them in a big way.
Sure. Can you give us kind of an overview of your holistic approach?
Yeah. So really, health comes from a lifestyle primarily. Health doesn't come from a doctor's office. A doctor's office can help return you to health, but really you need to take responsibility for your own health, and how you live will determine the state of your health. So that's really what we focus on is how can we get you moving properly? How can we get you eating properly? How can we get you surrounding yourself with healthy relationships? So that's really the foundation. And then outside of that, then we look at how can we as a team complement that and help return you to those proper states.
Yeah. So is that kind of a case-by-case thing, or
Yes and no. Yeah. So human beings have a certain level of nutrition that they need, and so that's pretty general to the entire human population. When you look at animals and you look at what we feed a giraffe or what we feed a dog, all dogs need to eat pretty much the same thing. All giraffes eat giraffe food, and so similar to human beings, we all have the same nutritional requirements primarily, but certain people are lacking certain things. And so looking at how can we put that into their diet, things like that. When it comes to movement, human beings have primarily same biomechanical needs and same movement needs. And so looking at getting them to move properly, getting them to move enough is a big thing. And so just looking at that balance of movement, nutrition, and then relationships as well.
Sure. Do you do testing to find out the nutritional deficiencies?
A little bit, not a whole lot. A lot of it is just telling somebody eat more broccoli or eat a lot more variety and looking at more whole foods. So if somebody can transition to eating a lot more whole foods and less processed foods, overall their health is going to improve.
Yeah. What are the most common nutrient deficiencies?
I would say the top two nutritional deficiencies based on all the research that I've seen would be vitamin D and omega-3s. Omega-3 fatty acids would be the top nutritional deficiencies. And then more of macronutrients of foods is fiber, plant type foods. That's a big thing. So that's what I would say is a lot of plant material that we don't eat as human beings here in America. So, but vitamin D and omega-3 would be the primary nutritional deficiencies.
Yeah. So we've got on the one hand, there is kind of one diet that works for everyone in a sense. I mean, obviously there are cases where people have specific nutrient needs, but in general that's true. But then there's also a variety of diets. On the one hand, there could be one diet that worked for almost everyone, and then there's also a variety of diets that work.
Yes. And when you look at most all of those diets, the common theme is they're whole foods. If you eat food and not substitute food, then in general, most diets will work. And Michael Pollan wrote a book in defense of food. And there's some things I agree with him in there and some things I don't. But basically, he said, eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Yeah.
And most diets are based around that principle.
Yeah.
So diets aren't, in America, we have this idea of cycling through this diet. And then that worked for me sort of, but it didn't last very long. And then I go to this diet and then that didn't work for very long. So I go to this diet. And really, we need just consistency. So pick something and stay with it.
Sure.
And that will work instead of do it for 20 days and then go back to eating high calorie, high sugar content food. So it's more, let's find some balance and logic with it even.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. So working in diabetes reversal, I've noticed that there's other diets. I use Dr. Mark Hyman's diet for that, and that works great. And then I noticed some other doctors have reversal diets.
Yes.
And they don't, one doctor goes, no fat,
Right.
And, but it still works, mainly plant-based.
Sure.
And so yeah, there's some flexibility in there.
Yeah. And it really comes down to some basic principles of, we need plants. We need a lot of the vitamins, minerals that plants get and provide for us. We do need fats. And that's a whole nother topic that would probably take several interviews to go through. And there's a lot of research coming out about the need for fats. And so we do need some animal meat and an animal product to supplement our diet. It shouldn't necessarily be a huge majority of our diet, but we do need the fats and proteins and amino acids that come from that kind of a diet as well. So the biggest thing is, are you getting whole foods? And then is it a quality whole food? And then are you getting variety with that? So if you're eating only broccoli is a great food, but if that's all you're eating, there's a lot of things you're missing. So you need to mix a lot more. And A lot of people have probably heard the term "eat the rainbow." You need a lot of variety, a lot of color, a lot of just fun in your diet.
No, that's a good analogy. I like that. That'll be easy for people to remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because that raises the point. There's other doctors that feel that we shouldn't eat any meat.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Doctors that have found a link between meat consumption and cancer,
Mm-hmm.
looking at population studies.
Sure.
The China study.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to comment on that, or?
Yeah, part of it depends on what kind of meat you eat and other lifestyle factors, and that gets into even just an understanding of human physiology, which a lot of people go into. We want to do a research study, but we're going to isolate out one aspect of that study and not look at the population as a whole and their entire lifestyle. And so there's a lot of people that eat a lot of meat and they don't have those same issues. So there's other studies. You can take any research and turn it and use it however you want.
Yeah.
And you can find research that shows one thing and research that shows the exact opposite. So
right.
So it's that's where you have to take the research and then apply it to scientific principles. And so humans need fat. They need the omega-3s, which we can't primarily get in plant foods because we don't have the enzymes to convert those short chain fatty acids into the longer chain omega-3s that we need. And so we do need some of that animal food to eat.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So
fishes work really good
Mm-hmm.
for me personally.
Yes.
Sardines and salmon and stuff. My coconut oil.
Yes.
My HDLs were never even in the 50s.
Sure.
Until they made the diet switches, and now they're in the 60s.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, those things are helping a lot, and probably some of the supplements as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you tell us about supplements? Do you what kind of work do you do there?
Just a little, and primarily again, certain individuals, depending on their lifestyle, and that's where, as a clinician, I need to know my patient's lifestyles, so that helps to fill in some of the gaps. But that's what nutrition should be, is to fill in gaps that we're lacking based on our industrialization of food production. And so the big things that I recommend with that would be the omega-3s, the primarily fish oil, as a good source for omega-3s, and then vitamin D. Those are the two big things. And then the third one that I often supplement with is probiotic. And there's a lot of research coming out on the importance of probiotic, and a lot of that gets into more neurology and brain function, and then immune function. So that's where I like to supplement with the probiotic as well.
Sure. Yeah. What about appetite control? Don't fats help with appetite control?
Yep. Fats definitely can help blunt your blood sugar spikes, and so help level it out, and so it helps reduce some of those cravings. And a really good analogy that our nutritional therapist uses is, think of a fire. And when you look at a fire, you have three main fuel sources for that fire. You have kindling, grasses, leaves, things like that. You have sticks that kind of help build the structure of the fire, and then you have logs. And so it's kind of like your carbs, proteins, and fats, where the kindling, the carbohydrates are quick, fast fuel sources, but they spike and they drop. And you need to keep on that on a regular basis. Otherwise, your fire will go out really fast. It'll burn really hot and then drop. And then your proteins are primarily your structural portions of your body. It helps build a lot of structure, provides some energy, but not high levels of energy. And the body doesn't primarily use protein as energy. But then on the other side, you have logs, and that's your fat. And so it provides a longer, slower burning energy. And so it helps blunt those spikes that the carbohydrates could have. So that's why you need the variety. If all you had was the logs on your fire, you're missing something in there.
Right. No, you've got some great analogies there. Keep those analogies coming. So.
Yeah.
So that raises the interesting point that our food is decreasing in nutritional value because the soil is decreasing in quality.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And yeah, actually, I was just watching a training a couple nights ago on essential oils, and looking. Essential oils are primarily plant-based compounds that they pull from the oils or from the plants, and it's used. Actually, it's been used for thousands and thousands of years as medicine. And so there was training on that, and they were talking about the difference between commercially farmed plants and then more indigenous plants where they're grown in their native soil with everything that's there. And then they referenced a study, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but with blueberries, that they've studied blueberries, and they've looked at the conventionally farmed blueberries, organic versus wild blueberries, and the antioxidant difference between the farmed blueberries and the indigenous blueberries was, I think it was at 10% or 10 times more antioxidants in the wild blueberries than the commercially farmed.
Sure. Yeah. I know Organic Valley has done some studies with the University of Wisconsin and found, similar things.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep. So a big part is without crop rotation and proper farming methods and more of the sustainable methods of farming, you're just going to be depleting the same nutrients out of the soil. So here's our source, and now we're pulling the same thing out and never replenishing it.
Yeah.
You're going to run out of whatever nutrient is in that you're looking for even.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk more about that after a break. So that'd be a good topic to pick up on again. But thanks for joining us today. Our guest is Joe O'Toole. He is the owner and founder of the LifeStream Clinic, which works in holistic health and chiropractic. Thanks for joining us today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team,
I'll take a call anytime.
and then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Hi, welcome back to Jet Radio. I'm Ted Char, your host, and with us today is Dr. Joe O'Toole. He is the owner and founder of the LifeStream Clinic here in the Des Moines area. So we left off and we are talking about the impact of soil on nutrients in plants. And so, you mentioned the blueberry study, and Organic Valley is I think they plan to do ongoing work in that area.
Sure.
In collaboration with other organizations. But I think it's an important theme to continually raise up, because we began with 14 to 16 inches of topsoil, and we've got either the best or one of the best soil resources in the world here, and we're using it to grow monocultures of corn and beans, and we're also decreasing the quality of the soil. It's more compact, and it has less organic matter, and so it's now we're down to 6 inches, and that is partly due to compaction and and also due to enormous amounts of loss as it's washed away in these extreme rains.
Sure.
So it's like, what, when you think about it, if we're down to 6 inches, what if we get down to 3? I mean, we will get down to 3.
Right.
It's just when,
Right.
But if we don't change some practices, but you grew up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Here, what are some of your thoughts in that area?
Oh, if we don't protect our food sources, if we don't protect where we get our food, we're at a loss. Right. I mean, we need these nutrients. Our bodies need these nutrients to function. And actually, I work with a pharmacist here in town who has started a program called Balancing Meds, and he used to teach at the Chicago School of Medicine. And so Steve works with looking at medications and how they deplete the body of nutrients. And so that's where most side effects come from, of headaches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. You get the whole list of side effects whenever you look at a certain medication. And most of those side effects are caused because your body isn't getting the nutrients it needs. And same thing that if we're robbing our body of nutrients from pharmaceuticals or from whatever, or we're not even getting them in the first place because our soils are so depleted of that's going to cause a lot of these chronic diseases that we have.
Sure. Yeah, and it's like, we're sort of in a period of denial here.
Yes.
It's like we're not that far from 3 inches.
Right.
Relatively speaking. I mean, the soil has been around for thousands and millions of years. Depending on the area, but it's like, when are we actually going to change practices so that the soil is being conserved?
Right.
Because conventional tillage or even conservation tillage isn't enough. The volunteer system isn't working. And so it's like, discussions are increasing, but in terms of actually changing farming practices to the point where we're beginning to reverse the trend in organic matter and reverse the loss trends, and that's not happening. So
yeah,
it's it's not about forcing farmers to do things they don't want to do. It's about facing reality and people working together. But how do you think maybe people involved in nutrition, health and wellness could work with farmers to help them to understand better what the implications are?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One that's really hard to answer. I mean, nobody's really found an answer. That's why we aren't reversing the trend. Some things that I feel could be beneficial is more local sourcing. That if you start looking at your region and trying to purchase your food from local sources, and you start connecting back with the food chain instead of just going to the grocery store and expecting somebody else to do all the work and all the research and everything for you, that will help. A big thing is there's no accountability and no feedback in the system. And so you have these farmers and not necessarily the farmers anymore, but it's now these massive corporations where a lot of the food production is happening. And so you've got larger corporations where their bottom line is profit, not necessarily health. And so you start losing some accountability with that through the whole food chain. And so looking at if we can local source a lot of our foods and use like CSAs, community supported agriculture, and just different co-ops and things like that, where we're starting to support our local farmers that are looking at not doing monocultures, that are saying, you know, I want to provide food for you and for your family instead of just this, well, I'm going to just ship off whatever I have and it doesn't matter what I ship off. And so providing more accountability, I think, with the local sourcing can be a big way to help reverse that trend.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered nutrition. Maybe we could move on to the relational
Sure.
aspect of things, but that could link back to that point, you know, because what you're talking about is community relationships.
Yes.
And so do you consider community relationships to be part of your relational approach?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's funny. There's a book called Tribal Leadership, and it's more of a leadership book, but a quote that I read in there really impacted me. And they said, and it was looking at how human beings function and how they congregate into tribes. And it said, fish school, birds flock, animals herd, humans tribe. And we're starting to lose that tribe. And so a part of it is social media. Part of it is we drive into our garage and then we have our privacy fences and we don't know our neighbors. And so we're starting to lose a lot of that, just knowing somebody next to us that we can go to for help. And so, yeah, that's a huge thing is where do we go? We're doing all of our shopping online. Hy-Vee is great. They have a lot of really good things, but you can order online, get your food shipped to your door for free if you order enough. And you never have to go see a face to find your food. And back when we didn't have all these chronic diseases that we have, you had to work as a team to bring down an animal and to bring your food home. And now it's, you know, I don't even really need to leave home, and I don't need to really contact another soul in my world because I can go to work. I put my headphones in as I'm driving and I listen to the radio, and then I get there and I sit in my cubicle or my office and I email everybody. I text everybody. I check up with people. And so I get this false sense of relationship on my social media, and then I drive home, go in my house, watch TV. And that's not everybody, but, and it's a gross overgeneralization, but there is a huge loss of community, and I don't think anybody can deny that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think we can do to maybe change that?
Get outside. If you start getting outside and start moving and start looking for quality food, you'll get that community. You'll start connecting with people that have similar interests to you. And my real area where I like to geek out and do a lot of research is in movement. That's really my thing. If you really want to see me start moving around and getting antsy and stuff, that's when we start talking about movement. So I'll try not to go there too much because I'll go a little crazy. But if you go outside and you go start running, you're going to join a running club. If you go out and I work with a lot of triathletes. And so you go out, there's a huge triathlon community, and they meet a couple times a week, and they talk and they communicate, and they are close knit. And there's a tribe of triathletes. And so now they're starting to tribe. Most of us are losing our tribal sense because we're on Facebook, and that's where we get our relationships, or we're on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or all these different things that provide a shallow relationship and get us enough to get by, but don't actually build deep, healthy relationships.
Sure. And what about family relationships?
Oh, family is huge. Family is huge. If you don't have somebody in your life that you can walk out your door in the morning and say, I have somebody who's going to lay down my life for me today, then you will have mental disorders. You will feel isolated and alone. And someone who feels isolated and alone is going to sink into depression, is going to sink into a lot of these mental disorders that we have, because there's nobody there for me. And that's what family is and should be, is I can walk out my door and I know my wife has my back. At the end of the day, we may have disagreements on certain things, but on the big things, we agree. And beyond anything else, even if we don't agree necessarily on everything, I know she has my back. So that's huge.
Yeah. So what are some of the activities that you do to build family relationships?
Time is a big thing. And then just getting back to what I said before, movement. We go out on walks. We go out to the playground with our 2 little kids. We have a little swimming pool in our backyard, a little blow up plastic swimming pool that our kids love. And so we go out there and we stick our feet in the pool and talk, and the kids there, and they come and jump on us, and we have fun. We spend time together, and we focus on each other and all these other distractions that are out there with busyness of life and being pulled into this direction and that direction, and just turning inward and saying, Lexi, you're my priority. And so I'm going to sit here while you're playing in the pool and I'm going to talk to you. Or if she's starting to have attitude issues, stopping what I'm doing and focusing on her. And that builds this connection with her that now I'm willing to lay down my life for my daughter, not just because she's my daughter, but because I know her and she knows that I'm going to, and she has that security and that protection. And it's because we spend time together. It's because I focus on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why is movement a good opportunity for relationship building?
Okay, so movement does a ton of things to the brain. Neuroscientists are starting to understand a lot of what movement does to the brain. And a couple of the big things that it does is when you start understanding physiology, the human being is in 2 general states. They're either in growth and repair mode or they're in fight and flight mode. When you're in fight and flight mode, you're in the stress response. It's basically there's a lion jumping out at you and chasing you. You're in that mode. Or you're in this, you know what, I can let my guard down and I can be relaxed. And that's when all of our body processes start functioning. Movement shifts you from this fight or flight mode into this growth or repair mode. That's one of the big things that it does. The movement signal travels through the areas of the hippocampus, which is primarily a learning center in the brain, but they've also determined that when the hippocampus is highly active, it produces this calming effect on the brain. So now you're calming the brain down, as opposed to when you're not getting that movement signal, it's going to areas of like the locus coeruleus and the amygdala, which are kind of your fear and alarm centers, a lot of the emotion centers. And so you're shifting those 2. So that's part of it. Is movement is just getting the brain to relax, and so you're not in this constant stress. So that's kind of the science side of things. But then on the other side is when you're sitting on the couch and you're just sitting there or alone, you're not going to, most of the time when you're alone, you're not going to be moving a whole lot. When you start moving, you need to go to places to start moving. It's hard to sit in your house and do a lot of movement, unless you have a lot of money and you have a huge house and you built your own gym. So other than that, you have to go to the playground and you start interacting with people there. You have to get out on the sidewalk. And as you are out on the sidewalk, you start talking to people. And as you're out in your yard, you start communicating with people, with your neighbors, because now they're out in their yard too. And so you just start getting out, and that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you saying it breaks down barriers between people as well? Or?
Yeah, partly. Yeah. And it starts to bring commonalities. And when you start to have this common interest, you're going to start connecting with somebody a little bit better. So like I said before, with the triathletes, they have a common interest. And it's a lot harder to motivate myself if all I'm doing is biking and running and swimming on my own. But if I have a group of others, I'm going to go do it. So if I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to do an Ironman triathlon, I need others around me to help keep me accountable, to help motivate me, because we only have so much motivation that we can muster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
what's the effect on performance?
Well, one, that you can even do it because you've worked your way into the ability to extend the amount of time that you've been able to run or things like that. So that's a big thing. And with that community is just that accountability to keep progressing and pushing yourself, instead of saying, this is good enough. I may be a little sore, so I don't want to go too far. and push myself too much, as opposed to, you know what, you may be sore, but you can go a little farther.
Yeah. So what's the combination of things that you do for treatment? So you got movement, nutrition, relationships.
Yeah.
Is that everything, or is there more?
Primarily, yeah. I mean, that's the big thing is getting into that. So as a chiropractor, and again, because I geek out more on the movement side, there are some chiropractors that focus more on the nutrition side of things than I do. And some that focus more on the relationship side and all of that. But for me, it's primarily looking at, as far as treatment goes, it's primarily movement based. Treatment is primarily movement based, and then education is more the nutrition and relationships is primarily how I break it down. And so if I have a patient who is, actually I have several patients that are either have rifts in their relationship. They're either separating or going through traumatic relationships right now. And so it's a matter of just being there for them and encouraging them to form healthy relationships, to open up to whoever is in that relationship and encouraging them that way. And so being there for them and supporting them and encouraging them, here's how you can do this, or here's some questions you can ask, or here's some resources where you can go to get further counseling or help with a relationship. Nutrition is a lot of education of, eat this stuff, and then we don't do a lot of nutritional testing per se in our clinic. It's more eat a good, healthy, clean, varied diet, and then supplement and fill these gaps in that we know everybody's going to have. And then outside of that, then if there's still some issues, then we can look at more individual testing and things like that.
Sure.
Primarily, what we do for treatment is movement. And so movement is kind of broken down into two areas. There's global full body movement, and then there's specific movement. So when we primarily, again, try to, with the lifestyle thing, okay, get out there, and if I assess somebody's baseline for movement, they sit on the couch all day or they don't move. And so my goal is, okay, let's start 15-minute walk a day. We're just going to start there. And it's something easy. We're adding something to your life. It's fun, enjoyable. Find somebody to go to that you enjoy talking with. And so 15 minutes, or, let's ramp this up to half an hour. Okay, now let's get, there's a lot of resources out there. Let's use this app or something like that, Couch to 5K, where you now, instead of just walking, now you spend a little time running in there. And so just keep building them up that way. Then as far as what I do is I look, how is the body functioning? So, and how is the movement intertwined? So if you're having issues in your ankle and in your hip, that's going to affect your knee. So clearing up pain with that, helping prevent knee pain, helping clear up ankle injuries and hip injuries, spinal injuries, things like that prevent you from even being able to go out and walk or exercise, and just how this all functions together. So instead of just looking just at the knee and fixing the knee, there's things in the hip and ankle that can affect how the knee works. So looking at that functional movement and how interrelated the joints are. And then specifically looking at this joint-specific movement, when you look at joints, there's a lot of neurological receptors that send information into the brain. Most of those receptors are movement receptors. They sense movement, and they send the signal to the brain. If you're not getting that full range of motion through joints, now you're decreasing the amount of signal that's going through. And so freeing joints up to move, finding the ones that are restricted, lost their motion, that starts to change the signal going into the brain. And so now you're not getting this full movement signal that you need, which also changes the signal coming out of the brain. And so then you start getting muscle spasms, muscle tightness. Muscle can only contract for so long, so you start forming scar tissue instead of muscle fiber, things like that. And so starting to reverse a lot of those things that a lot of the chronic diseases are also playing into.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Thanks for explaining that to us. But time for another break. But let's kind of transition from that your initial program to then how you help people at the maintenance phase.
Sure.
When we come back. So Joe Toole is with us today. He is the owner of the Lifestream Clinic, and we are talking about health and wellness. He is a doctor of chiropractic. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I've purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, welcome back to Jet Radio. I'm Ted Shar, your host, and Joe O'Toole is with us today. He is the owner of the Lifestream Clinic. Welcome back, Joe. So, hey, so we left off and we were talking about your specific program to help people get healthy, and kind of lead us through the transition when you're ending the official program and getting them into the maintenance phase where they self-regulate.
Yeah, so most of the time people come in because they're in pain with this or that or headaches or whatever, and so they're seeking treatment for that, or they want to boost their performance or whatever. So that's where a lot of that initial treatment comes in up front. But then from there, where do you go? Most of the time, when you go in for treatment for this or that or whatever, it's just, okay, we treated this condition. We've never even addressed your lifestyle for the most part. And all right, go continue doing what you were doing that brought you in my door in the first place. And if you're leaving somebody with that, all you're doing is creating repeat customers. And so what we really look at is how, as we're doing treatment, how can we educate you and then turn from that into more community engagement. And so really kind of the process that we look at is treatment, education, and engagement. And our clinic in Ankeny is located inside a Fitness World, and so it's inside of a fairly large gym, and we're looking at bringing health into somebody's lifestyle instead of expecting you to come out and make this whole dichotomy between health and lifestyle. It should be one. And so now providing resources and education. So we have several classes that we do, ongoing classes on health and just maintenance and what does it mean to eat properly. You mentioned before, there's this diet and that diet and this diet and that diet. What's a good diet to follow? Well, all of them to some extent. And so providing that education as far as movement, what's good movement principles to maintain and stay healthy and stay active and things like that. So providing some of that knowledge and then looking at application of that by engaging them in a community aspect. So for some patients, we will go through a treatment and a rehab period. And once they get to that, now we start working with the personal trainers at the fitness center that, okay, this person isn't quite ready to go off and just totally go on their own. They need some accountability, some direction. And so we'll transition to working with a personal trainer, less us, more trainer, and start giving more responsibility and more desire for a person to take control of their own health. And so transitioning into that aspect more, and then getting into more group sessions, group training or group classes, or these groups like the triathlon club that are meeting together to just stay active and things like that. So just depending on the individual, what they need is that's kind of how we look at transitioning them out of this active care into more lifestyle related care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you have a feel for how frequent the relapse rate is, back to old unhealthy lifestyles?
Part of that depends on the individual, how much they want to take control of their health or how much they're just looking for a pill or a quick fix. And so that's one thing that we try to, in a sense, educate them on, that we're not looking for a quick fix. We're looking for a lifestyle change. And so it kind of depends on the individual if they want to take responsibility for their health or not. That's a big thing. And so just providing them with some materials, some knowledge, some base knowledge of, okay, you have a choice here. It's not this, I'm predisposed to have diabetes. Most people aren't predisposed to have type 2 diabetes. A vast majority is lifestyle related. And so if somebody is in this mindset that, my dad had it, my mom had it, I'm going to have type 2 diabetes, they don't even understand the process of type 2 diabetes. It doesn't work that way. And so that's where you start looking at a whole field of epigenetics and how our environment determines the expression of our genes. And so just kind of transitioning their mindset from, I can't control my health, to I can control it. If they have this mindset that I can control my health, then the relapse rate is very small.
Yeah, no, that's good. So what do you consider the top inhibitors of wellness, when they get to the maintenance phase?
One is an understanding, like I just said, this understanding that I'm predetermined for this disease or that disease or this or that, and so there's no hope. It is a big thing. And in our society, and especially in healthcare, that's a big thing that we've taken away from people, is hope. And when I was going through school, my clinical staff doctor, he said, the one thing you can never take away from a patient is their hope. And once you take that away, they will never get better. They will never take control of their own lifestyle. But if you give them that hope that, you may be limited by certain things. You may have had lost a limb, so you can't walk or things like that. But that doesn't mean you have to give up life. And so giving them that hope and in some way vision casting for them that, here's what you have, here's what you could have. And it, you can have a better life than you have right now. And so giving hope, honestly, is probably the biggest thing. Once somebody has hope that they can get better and stay better, then they'll start pursuing that.
Yeah. So what about inhibitors in the medical community and the established system?
That's a big can of worms. I would say one is a lack of understanding of the importance of lifestyle, especially in a clinical standpoint. That not necessarily most physicians, most healthcare practitioners understand how important lifestyle is, but don't understand how to implement that and how to use that as a clinician, as a doctor. I can treat somebody, but we're all in this treatment mindset and not in this lifestyle mindset. And so I, as a doctor, I need to transition from I'm treating this patient to I'm getting this patient to take control of their health. And so that lack of understanding of how to transition them into that personal responsibility is a big thing in healthcare. And then another big thing is just how our system is set up as far as business and financial structure. Of right now, insurance primarily dominates what is paid for in healthcare. And so they control the direction that somebody's treatment takes a lot of times. They won't pay for most wellness things, most prevention things. Insurance doesn't pay for because the person's not sick. Now that mindset is starting to shift a little bit with some insurance companies and things like that. That's starting to change. And I hope that it does, because that's what's needed. The more we focus on prevention and lifestyle, the less treatment we need. And it's a lot cheaper to help somebody with their lifestyle than it is to treat them for heart disease, diabetes, a lot of site-specific cancers that are lifestyle related, things like that. So that's another big thing is insurance and how we pay for healthcare and the mindset that a lot of people have of, I'm not going to do something unless my insurance pays for it. Well, I'm sorry, but insurance isn't out for your best interest. I've seen very few insurance companies, again, because morally they're obligated to their shareholders for their bottom line to bring profit to their shareholders, not necessarily to you as an individual for your health. The doctor is. And so now there's this whole third party thing where there's a lack of accountability for for whoever's paying for it, and it just starts to get mixed.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. Couldn't we have a situation where the shareholders actually were the ones driving the company to pursue wellness?
Yes. And that would be awesome. That really would. And again, that's where we have a societal issue. We have a cultural issue. And so a lot of this whole concept of health, we talked about soil conservation and the importance of healthy soil. We talked about the importance of just a mindset to get out and exercise as a culture versus sit on my phone and just look at what people are doing around me that they're really not doing a whole lot anyway because they're sitting in their house posting on their Facebook. But all of this stuff, that's really a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. How do you solve a cultural problem?
Sure.
And that's a big question. So really, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of me personally, I'm going to take responsibility for myself, for my family, and for my patients. And then I'm going to start taking responsibility for my community. And so I'm stepping up into volunteer and leadership roles in my community to start impacting. I'm doing things like this, sitting with you and helping to bring some clarity to the situation. Hopefully, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm confusing people, but just instead of being just all about me and how much pleasure can I bring myself, it's okay. I'm going to take responsibility for my health. I'm going to start now talking to other people about it. I'm going to start having a bigger focus than just me.
Sure.
And so, but it starts one bite at a time. So I can do a little thing here. I can do a little thing there. Eventually it's going to add up to a big impact.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are talking and, talking to the business leaders and governmental leaders about this subject. But what changes have you noticed? You said some changes are starting to take place.
There are some insurance companies that are starting to provide more wellness programs. There are businesses that are starting to see the importance of wellness programs. One thing that I've run into with a lot of businesses is they say, okay, yeah, I understand my employees' health is important, but unless it actually brings me a profit as a business, I'm not going to invest in it. And there's a lot of research out there that shows how beneficial a wellness program for a company can be.
Yeah.
But it's not until you start bringing in that dollar sign that a lot of businesses start saying, oh yeah, okay, that's beneficial, so we'll do that.
Yeah.
So I've seen businesses, Meredith Corp here in town is huge. They have tons of really good resources for their employees as far as wellness.
Yeah.
And there's other businesses and companies here in town that do that. Some insurance companies are starting, especially through employers, to provide incentives for wellness and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So the status quo is to be paid to treat.
Yes.
But yeah, like we're talking about, if people, they kind of have to deal with the system, but in the meantime, they can start talking to each other, talking to leaders, and just saying, hey, this is the way it is right now, but what about, what about this alternative? Because everyone knows, people are a lot better off. They're going to live a healthier life. They're going to be a lot better off financially if they avoid those big hitters, diabetes, heart disease, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it not only affects physical health, but everything else too.
Right, and it affects those around you. That's another big thing that a lot of people don't understand is, okay, sure, I may have struggle with obesity or diabetes or heart disease or cancer or Alzheimer's, all these chronic immune dysfunction, this constant sickness that somebody has that they think, oh, I just got this bug. And not realizing that you can improve your immune system so you don't get this infection to a large extent. And so we have this whole, my health is my concern and it only affects me. And it absolutely doesn't. I have several patients who are nurses and they work on the cardiac ward. They work in the kidney ward where a lot of patients struggle with weight and they work with a lot of severely overweight patients. And they come seeking help from me because their job requires them to do incredibly heavy lifting and putting themselves into positions where they will hurt themselves trying to help this patient. And so now as they're trying to help this patient, they're hurting themselves. So they're hurting this lack of health is hurting other healthcare providers. It's hurting family members and hurting friends and hurting relationships. And so now you can't build that deep relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And as part of a community, organizations can help each other.
Yes.
So, because people generally only take one step at a time, even though the program might offer 10 steps.
Right, right.
So, you know, I mean, I know that's true in my own life and most of the people I know. But I think if organizations work together, they can help patients overall better.
Very much so. And again, that's where healthcare has become a business, not care. And so a lot of healthcare providers or clinics or this or that are now fighting each other and saying there's not enough fish in the pond. I need to cut down this person or this clinic or this way of helping somebody and trying to discredit them instead of saying, you know what, there's a valuable piece there. Yeah, you can find help there. And here's where I fit in as well. And so I love working with other providers and just coming together and saying, you know what, here's where I can help you. If you need any movement help, if you're in pain and you can't exercise or things like that, come to me. I can help you with that. But if you need somebody ongoing to help train you and coach you for this or that or whatever, I'm not going to be the best person for you. So who can we get to help you with that? If you need a lot of help with your nutrition because your digestive system is shot and your stomach is just destroyed, I'm not going to be the best person for you. But I can point you to somebody who can help you.
Sure.
And that's what we need we need a lot more of working together instead of just saying, come to me for everything.
Right. No, absolutely. That is a great point to end on because that's how communities and movements develop. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've really appreciated the time here.
Yeah. So with us today has been Joe O'Toole, and he is the owner and founder of LifeStream Clinic, and they treat patients with a holistic approach to health and wellness. Thanks for joining us today.